So the war in Ukraine has really proved that the whole white genocide conspiracy theory is nonsense. It's utter rubbish. For years, for years, I was hearing and reading stuff on the internet about white genocide and how the American government hates white people, the UN hates white people, the European Union hates white people. Everybody hates white people, including white people. And I heard people say things like, oh, yeah, Europeans hate white people. They hate themselves. And there is this just that there is just this onslaught going on against white people, and how there is this huge wave of just animosity and vitriol and hatred against white people. Now, as a clarification, let me just say that hatred against white people does exist. But the people who hate white people and who are pushing hatred against white people, they're trying to incite hatred towards white people, those activists are extreme SJWs. They're the types of people you see them with the purple hair or the blue hair or the pink hair, and they have nose rings, and they are so ugly that almost nobody really takes them seriously. There is a hatred towards white people. It does exist, absolutely. It is being incited, yes. It is being pushed, absolutely. But how many people in the world actually take those activists seriously? Because the ones who are trying to incite hatred towards white people, they are extremely ugly people. Like, I don't have to try to prove that to you. You guys know this already because we've seen the videos, right? We've seen the videos where whites are called demons and inferior or whatever. They're so ugly and nobody takes them seriously. And I remember back in 2015, 2016, there was this huge trend going on the internet of anti-SJW videos. Sargon of Akkad was one of the people who really he was one of the people who was the face of this trend. And those videos that were against the SJWs, those videos that were mocking the anti-white messages, those videos were extremely popular. And the reason why they were so popular was because most people don't take this sort of ideology seriously. So with that said, let me explain in very, very simply why the war in Ukraine proves that this conspiracy theory of, this huge onslaught, this huge wave of hatred towards white people is nonsense. So there was a war in Yemen. Right, there was a war in Yemen between the Houthis and the Saudi government and the people in Yemen who the Saudi government backs. And tens of thousands of people literally starved to death in Yemen. Tens of thousands. We're talking, over 80,000, 85,000 or so people, probably more than that, starved to death. Did anybody really care? No, because I was talking about Yemen and nobody really cared. In fact, the U.S. government just continued on doing big weapons deals with Saudi Arabia, regardless of this tragedy that was taking place. The Trump administration made sure to make billions of dollars for the U.S. government in arms sales, billions of dollars in arms sales for the Saudis. Selling weapons to the Saudi government is what I mean. Nobody cared about Yemeni people, and Yemeni people are people of color. There was a horrific war that was taking place in the Central African Republic. Nobody cared. In fact, the European Union even even made a deal with an African paramilitary group that was known to have committed war crimes and horrific acts of inhumanity, such as rape. The European Union actually worked with these paramilitaries to literally block migrants from going into Europe. Does that sound like people who hate white people and who prefer people of color over white people? Obviously not. There was a war in the Congo. Nobody cared. Nobody cared. There was a huge caravan of migrants coming in from Central America into the United States. I mean, there was a huge uproar in America about taking these people in. Now, a war in Ukraine is occurring, and I'm not saying that we shouldn't feel sorry for the people of Ukraine. We should feel sorry for them, and I feel sorry for them. But I have noticed, and I've noticed this a lot. Businesses in Europe, public places in Europe, will present the flag of Ukraine. And I've seen pictures from the United Kingdom where you have restaurants with the flag of Ukraine. I've seen public places in England where little triangle flags of the Ukraine are just draped up on the top of a wall. You see the flags of Ukraine everywhere. The blue and yellow flag all over the place. And European countries have absorbed millions of Ukrainian refugees. And even the government of England has been encouraging people to literally house Ukrainian refugees in their homes. And I've heard that they've even offered money to people to house Ukrainian refugees. I didn't see that sort of thing happening for Syrian refugees or for any other refugees within the recent conflicts that have taken place within recent years. Does that sound like a government or a political bloc that hates white people? Ukrainians are very white. A lot of them are blonde. They look 100% European. And I have seen more favor, more enthusiasm for helping Ukraine than for helping other countries that were in conflicts recently. So the European Union taking in all these refugees, the European Union supporting Ukraine, all of these businesses throughout Europe hoisting up the Ukrainian flag, giant graffiti art, giant pieces of graffiti art found on the walls of Ukrainian people and the Ukrainian flag and all that. I saw one piece of graffiti art in England of a Ukrainian girl with a beanie, and the beanie had the colors of the Ukrainian flag. Does the European sound like it's anti-white? Does it really sound like it's anti-white? Everybody's talking about Ukraine. Ukraine this, Ukraine that. Help the people of Ukraine. Now, if there was this huge hatred and vitriol against white people, don't you think people would be saying things like, hey, we should be taking in Africans? Why are we taking all these white people? We're just taking in more white people. And doesn't Ukraine have a culture of revering mass murderers like Stepan Bandera and Andrei Melnik, the guy who literally pledged allegiance to Adolf Hitler? Aren't those people considered heroes in much of Ukrainian society? Why are we taking in these racist Ukrainian people? Like, if there was this huge vitriol against white people, we would be hearing rhetoric like that, but we're not. So this one thing that this war in Ukraine has done is it's just shattered the incessant drivel that we've been hearing for such a long time on the internet, going all the way back to 2013, 2014, 2015, about white genocide. And oh, there are white people. Everybody hates white people. You're a what is it? You're a cisgender white male. Everybody hates you. It's like, yeah, I think that's just nonsense. But anyway, the whole white genocide thing is nonsense. Now, what is true is hatred towards Christianity. Yes, that's real. That's a real thing. But white genocide, I think it's nonsense. Anyway, you guys just heard some theology. God bless.